Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Transformed You. Today, we're going to talk about anxiety, and we hope in our conversation here, you will find not only help, but some pathways of healing for your life. And I'm glad to be here. Are you?
You know it. It's rainy and yucky, but...
I'm Mark DeJesus here with my wife, Melissa, my amazing wife, my amazing co-host. And I love talking to you about stuff. So let's get into this subject of anxiety. There is a growing population of people that are realizing I have anxiety. They're being diagnosed with some kind of general anxiety disorder, or maybe they have a specific area that they seem to always be anxious over. I feel like anxiety, like worry, seems to be something that people are like, well, this is just what we always have, and we always can just kind of live under it. I found in my life and journey, there's more to the story than that. I don't think our story is limited to I have anxiety, and that's it. And that's just going to be how life is. I pray our conversation will help you to be able to see more for your life than just that. But it's going to take a journey and a process if you're willing to roll up your sleeves, tie up your shoes, and...
Do you have another analogy? Pull up your bootstraps.
And look into this, then you'll discover some good things that God can show you in your life and in your journey. So where do we start? Do you have anxiety?
Well... yeah, I do. I would say that I have had an issue with like saying that I had it. You know, I kind of did. I've had like a prideful issue in these areas of saying, I kind of felt like, I'm just off. I just got to work out some things.
You had some different names for it.
Yeah. And I think in my head too, and I don't know why this is like this, but I feel like that if anyone was to say, or if I was to say I had anxiety, that means I should be on medication. And to me, that was like, no, I can get this. It was like, to me, that felt out of control for me. So I didn't want to say I had anxiety. There was like this stigma that I guess a lot of, you see talked about in culture today, that we need to remove that. And right. I think I was part of that time that felt that way.
And when you and I first got together, it's kind of understandable that you could approach it that way from your family history, your background, right. And then you meet me, and I was very like, oh my goodness, I have anxiety. Yeah. It's so bad, I'm going to die. I feel like I'm going to die. Like I was just always, right. For a while.
I kind of had a little bit of a, not get over it, but like, I didn't know how to deal with it. Yeah. You were a great balance to help. God usually brings somebody who has certain aspects of their character that is there to sharpen us. Right.
So it's like I had a bent towards anxiety, and then I was very like victim-y and hopeless. Like, I don't know how to get out of this. I felt sorry for myself a lot, very self-pity prone. But I was finding healing, and I was finding some tools. And when you and I met, it was like, I'm like, here's what I got going on, but here's where I'm heading. And I think that's the picture that I want to encourage people in, is when you look at any mental health, emotional health struggle that you have in your life, it's okay to admit, I've got this issue going on, but where are you headed? And I think what happens is our battles often become our identity. And right. and that trickled pretty quickly for me, where you're on the other end, kind of like you had like different names for things, and it's like, no, I'm good.
I was doing a good dance with all of my problems.
And I was more, I'm just a mess, I'm going to die, and battling the anxiety I had was coupled with an obsessive compulsive that took me longer to identify. And that's a whole separate topic.
Yeah.
But the anxiety issue for me was on a scale of 1 to 10, and I'm going to use this scale this way, 10 being
the worst.
I was like a 9 or a 10 pretty much all day long. When you and I got together, it was ratcheting down to like 7 to 10 and 6 to 10, and I was finding moments where I'd bring it down to like a 3, and I'm like, okay, God, this healing stuff's real. And it became the greatest place where I've learned the most about God in my life. I don't believe God gives us anxiety. I don't believe it's like, here you go, I'm going to sprinkle anxiety on you. But I believe that he enters in. He wants to enter into that place. And it became literally the deepest place of transformation for my life, because mean, man, this thing had me by the throat.
Yeah. I think most people, when you start to recognize though, anxiety, it does for most people. Mm-hmm. You were just very aware of it. So it was hyper aware. Yeah. I would say it's two camps of people. It's where you had it so bad you were like, I have anxiety. What do I do?
Feeling debilitated.
Like I would find him on the floor sometimes, debilitated. Mm-hmm. Me, I'm the kind of person that I'm having anxiety and I'm go, go, go. I'm like running from it, keeping myself busy, and then internally spinning if you're driving in the car going, okay, calm down. You're going to be okay. Okay, just get through this, get to the next thing, get to where you're going, and running from it. And so both camps need to recognize, all right, what's going on? Mm-hmm. Because there's a deeper heart issue to address on what is chasing you and keeping you out of sanity and keeping you out of peace and keeping you not feeling safe and all of these things that your whole body is just reacting to this.
Yeah. And as I started to experience some freedom, I got really excited because I'm like, we literally left everything to venture into a whole new world of teaching people and helping people. And I thought, wow, people will be so excited to get freedom from this. And I found when I brought up the term anxiety, like a lot of people just kind of checked out. They were like, oh, that's you're talking about mental health thing. It's like those people. And I was like, wait a second. No, this is you. This is all of us. Yeah. And then there was like you're talking about an inability to just, or a stubbornness to not recognize that I have anxiety issues because many people ramp up their activity to the level of the anxiety that they live under.
Yeah, that's very true.
So for example, most men, their anxiety manifests in workaholism, constant working, and they will confess, the biggest nightmare for me is if I sit down at a beach in a chair and look out at the ocean. What's that saying? Now, we weren't meant to live sitting at the beach looking out the ocean, but it is a problem if you can't sit still, right? And it's like all our dads, that's the going report is, yeah, dad can't sit still. He's got to be busy.
Right. That's true. Right? That's very true.
So what is that? It's anxiety. It's an underlying fear that, because all anxiety is rooted in some form of fear that needs to be addressed, right? There's a lack of love and safety. There's aspects of your life. To me, I really want to encourage people. Let anxiety be your greatest area of learning and discovering who God is, how you see yourself, and how you do relationships. I think we're responding with just get rid of the symptoms. So we look for a medicative solution, right? And I'm not, preaching against medications.
Right, we're not.
But even psychologists, psychiatrists will say, many people say, I don't want medication, but they'll look for a medicative-like solution.
Right.
Right? And anxiety is a symptom of deeper things. It's a symptom of something's going. And when I discovered that, I was able to take a deep breath, buckle up, and go, all right, I'm on a journey here. I'm on a discovery of some things I don't know and I don't possess in my heart. And God, I need to learn. And that helped me a lot.
Yeah.
But anyway, there are some people who follow the pattern you're talking about, more of like a denial pattern. Then there's a pattern I'm talking about, which is like where we're just trapped and suffocated and we feel victimized by it. This thing is owning me. Somebody rescue me.
Which I do think is lending into the culture now of, that gives me anxiety and I cannot go do that.
Right.
We are liking the label to be able to either stay out of relationship, have it be a stamp of like, that's just uncomfortable. I'm in anxiety. I don't want to do that. And we're making these, oh man, what would you call them? Not a mask, but like I don't want to say excuse either. But in a lot of ways, we're just not dealing with what we need to deal with, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean,
that's a common problem in everything we're talking about. Is there are layers of denial that we live in. Just don't deal with it. I feel anxious. Just get this thing away from me. We don't like discomfort, so we run from discomfort.
Yeah.
And go to like the best place of comfort that we can find. You do that for a while, And it's going to condition you to avoid, 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 avoid. And now you're 40, 50 years old or 60 years old. And the idea of standing up against these fears seems insurmountable because you've stacked a lifetime of just avoiding the fear, avoiding the fear, avoiding the fear, and never facing it.
But I will tell you what, though, to circle back to just in how I dealt with it, I honestly did not realize that that's what it was. And it goes back to, and I've talked about this a lot in other episodes, I did not have the language to understand, to be self-aware enough to know that it was even anxiety. So I just thought like I was just broken, like I was awkward in certain situations. Really, it was anxiety. Like I had anxiety about meeting somebody for coffee. I had anxiety about getting up and going to work in the morning. Like there was anxiety blanketing my day. So I was withdrawing, or even if I was in a situation, I was so filled with rejection and awkward because I always had this like anxiety around me in every situation.
Right.
And so it's so important to just stop. And even as you're listening to this, just stop and go, okay, how is my day going? Like what is going on? And really start to recognize if you have it, if you're the person that's, pushing it away. Yep. We need to recognize that that's what it is. And I'm not saying to take it and claim it and go, oh, I have anxiety, but to go, all right, this is a real place of recognition, and which I want to get into now and start delving into, where do we start? When we go, okay, I have anxiety, now what?
Well, I think it's what you just said. We don't want to say I have anxiety in a way that it's our identity, and we also don't want to swing to the other side, which is like, I don't know how to.
I have anxiety.
This is not gonna come across the way I really want it to, but I'm not gonna claim that I have anxiety, right? So it's like both ditches can create some problems. Yeah. The best place to land is you may have anxiety, but you're not anxiety.
Yeah, that's good.
So you can create a sense of like, okay, this is not how God did not. Where I like to start with is, what did God design me with from His matrix of makeup? Did He make, has He called me in my identity to be an anxious person? No, but I have this issue, but it's a place in a journey where God can help me to learn to overcome. So I think where to start is honesty, to have a kindness about it, though. I wasn't kind about it because it was unrelenting, so it moved me into more depression struggles of, I just can't, like I'm exhausted. When your fight or flight is like rocking all day long, you just in your chest, sometimes you can't breathe. It would move into panic attacks. And I went on medication, and the problem with medication is that it only treats symptoms.
Right.
So I'm having these weird side effects, and then I'm like, okay, the anxiety's numbed out, but I'm kind of just numbed out, period. And that's one of the real problems that we have when we just kind of always go to the medicative. People ask me, what do you think about medications? And I'm like, well, there are times and seasons you need it. To allow yourself to stabilize a bit, to work on your stuff, work on the life of your heart. I think we limit God and what He's able to do. And I think a lot of Christians, this might sound weird, but a lot of Christians are like, I'm serving God, and then there's this mental health thing over here.
Yeah, so true.
So it's like, okay,
They're
God, me and you.
issues,
like,
right.
wait, no. The kingdom of God is all about being involved in all of this. There's a lot to discover. And if you'll be honest, but be kind to yourself in this. Like, all right, I got an issue here. Take a deep breath, because when you beat yourself up, it ramps up the anxiety.
Right, which that's what I did.
Right.
I just thought, like I said, I'm broken. Something's wrong with me. Can I get it right? What do I need to do?
Yeah, it's like this.
Right.
And then it just welcomes panic, and then the domino effect comes into play, where you're just, it's never, and then the darkness comes in. And the darkness says, you're never going to get well. So then we feel really stuck and like, I don't know where I'm going to go. So see the anxiety issue as an invitation for you to go deeper.
Well said.
If you start with that, you're gonna get somewhere. So pay attention to the themes that God's bringing up in your life. And I've told this before, but in the midst of that, I'm like breaking down, man. I'm not doing well. And I'm praying and asking God. And the first thing I felt was like, all right, this thing is humbling me. So I found myself humbling myself before God. All right, God, you've got my attention in a whole new way. Because I was in pastoral ministry, but I'll be honest, at that time I was going through the motions in my walk with him. And you can do that easily. You can work in a lot of churches, work in a lot of places, and go through the motions, and no one even notices that you're lukewarm or you're cold or you're just off, right? And that's a subject in itself.
Topic, right?
I humbled myself, and this is the theme that kept coming back to me. I want to teach you how to connect to me, to understand the power of praise and the power of worship in your life. And I was like, why do I keep finding that theme coming up? And then he introduced me to some friends and people that were reinforcing that. They're giving me worship CDs, or that's back when there were CDs. I think we were just past tapes and we're moving into, we're officially in CDs, right? And they're giving me CDs and stuff to listen to. And I'm like, God, help me with this anxiety. And what I felt, it's not that the worship was going to solve the anxiety. You may at times find that. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying it won't.
Right.
But it's deeper than that, because there are things that need to be experienced. But worship, I find, sets the atmosphere.
Right. Absolutely.
Of the relationship with God. Like, all right, I got to change how I'm doing things. My lifestyle needs to change. My thinking needs to change. The way that I do life needs to change. And the anxiety is revealing that to me.
I think, too, when you're worshiping, because I've mentioned this before, a lot of people, it helps in your journey to have references. And I think during worship time, when you connect to the Holy Spirit, you are connecting to the love of Father God, you're in that. You are setting a reference in your brain to go, this is what peace, this is what safety is. When you need to come back to that center, that I feel is one of the most amazing blessings of being able to worship God, is having that real true reference for that. Because we all come from homes, most of us do, 99% of the population, I would say, comes from chaos a lot of the time, whether it was peaceful chaos or abusive chaos, you know. We had that in our homes, and we don't know. Our bodies don't know, and we were meant to know what that feels like. We were meant to have that as a stabilizer. And
even Christian families, how many of you grew up with a reference of sitting and just worshiping God together, or sitting and just taking in the peace of God? There's very few that have that reference. So even the practice of what does it mean to worship God is go to a church service, have some really amazing music.
Get that for 22 minutes and then go.
Yeah, and that's really trained us in a bad way. It's like, I gotta get my playlist on. Where's my playlist? Like that's great to get you started, but have you ever just bring yourself before God and just engage Him and connect with Him? We don't have that. It's like let me get my iPod playlist, my Apple playlist, and let me get my YouTube going. And that's the jam. There we go. Right. We all have that.
And those things are good. I don't want to take away from that. But what the call that we want to bring is to go deeper, because ultimately these anxieties, fear, worry, panic, all of these things are stealing what relationship should be. And if we don't establish that with Father God properly, in relating to Him, worship is a major aspect of that. But there are deeper things that He wants to go to get access to your heart and bring in the heart of who He is over traumatic situations, over those things. And it's in that deeper place where then we can start to see the healing of these things happening.
Right.
And then as we do that, sharing with one another that we may be healed. It's that beautiful picture. We all want it. Who doesn't want that?
So I guess the best way to say it is that worship sets the table.
Absolutely.
So it's like the table set, the food's there, the atmosphere is conducive best. So the psalmist gives us a picture. We enter His gates with thanksgiving. Okay, there's a proximity there. Like the gates open up. So you're like, how do I get this started? Well, start with gratitude. Well, I have anxiety. I have a panic attack. When you open up Thanksgiving, it wars against the anxiety, right? Because it's very challenging to be really fully grateful and really fully anxious at the same time. So it's like, try that. Just stop and just go, all right, I want to focus. I want to be grateful for. And it like shifts the environment, right? So then he says, enter his gates with thanksgiving, into his courts with praise.
Yep.
So the gratitude leads me into praising God, glorifying him, right? But that's not it. You've set the atmosphere. You set the table, right? So the table's set, the food's there, the atmosphere's there. Now I'm in that to look at it from not to say, well, now I'm closer. I don't like to use that. Well, now I'm closer and I was farther away from God. I don't like that analogy because that gets people very condemned and confused. But it's just understanding connection, all right?
And intimacy, because there's a place of drawing closer.
Right. It's like you and I can go through the week and yes, our relationship is close, but there's moments where we stop and we're closer.
Look at each other and right.
Yep. So that's what I'm talking about here. So the atmosphere is set. So to use the marriage analogy, okay, now we're out and we have a nice date night. There's no kids, and we're having a meal, and then we go, okay, this is great. Go home, and we don't even eat, and we don't even sit. Like, no. Now it's time. So in that atmosphere, you start working some things out. You start learning. God, teach me. The word became more alive to me in that battleground. I said, God, if it's in your word, I want to know it. No more games anymore. I'm sorry for looking for the quick fix. I want the real deal. Show me who you are. Reveal yourself to me. And Mark DeJesus began the renovation out of what the enemy wanted to use to steal, kill, and destroy. Because I do believe a big part of anxiety is a spiritual battle. It's a manifestation of a spirit of fear, which Paul said to Timothy, God's not giving you that. He's not giving you a spirit of fear. So what does that mean? It means there's going to come this fear aspect that hits you, and anxiety is one of the forms of it. Worry is another. Stress is another. Panic is another. Phobias is another. OCD is another, right? Saying God's not giving that to you. So tune into what it means to be tuned into power, love, and a sound mind. It's like when you break that down, it's like, wow, okay, this whole thing is going to renovate me. It's not just about getting free from anxiety. This anxiety is a symptom to the deeper heart issue. So I asked you, do you struggle with anxiety? I'm going to ask myself that question. Do I have anxiety? Now, I don't have it in the way that I had it.
We used to, right?
When you and I first met. But there are days and times where it wants to uptick
and take you on, right?
But I now have have tools where the majority of the time I can look at it and I see it as a signal of, okay, God, let's just pause right now. Let's not just go on with life.
Right. What's going on? Do I need
Let's
sleep?
stop.
Right.
Let's stop. Oh, I've been a little hard on myself.
Right.
Oh, I've been cranking up the RPMs. Oh, I came into agreement with fear over that. Sometimes you just backtrack a little bit and go, oh, yesterday when that thing happened with Max or this thing with Abby,
you haven't slept good for 2 days. It's like, right. As parents, we all have to feel that stuff.
Because there's a lot of reasons why we have anxiety. Yeah. There's not Christians like to attach silver bullets to things. This because of this, and this is the reason. And it's multifaceted. Right. Because your spirit, soul, and body, and God's designed you to live out of the heart. Those are 4 terms that need a lot of discovery, right? You could simply go, you could be having anxiety off of a side effect of a medication you're on. You could be having anxiety off of too many stimulants like coffee that you're drinking too much. You could not be having enough sleep. Your nutrition is way off and wacky. Your lifestyle, your pace of life. Now, anxiety, I find, runs in families a lot, meaning that you can inherit the
genetic code of your parents and the historical,
Right. Now that's what you just said is the scientific physiological terminology. The Bible calls it things that run in the generations. Right. So there's a spiritual picture of what's going on physiologically there too. That's traveling. So people that I sit down with anxiety, I can find a lot of the blueprint of what's in the family, sometimes by just talking to the person and investigating, right? So your genetics, the generational patterns set the on-ramp, meaning that the on-ramp is kind of like when you're driving, it's like the starter to get on the highway, right? Now, it's the on-ramp that sends you on the highway. Now, you may go, wait, this is going in the wrong direction. And so now you go, I got to get off this highway. And then you're like, where do I got to go? You pull up GPS. Oh, I got to get the next exit. I got to turn around. It's all this like work, right? When you're going in the wrong direction. Like we've had that happen all the time. You're like, oh, I got to go on this ramp. Then I got to go all the way down. Then I got to go all the way back. And I find that that's often the spiritual journey of taking the inheritance that we've been given and move into a new pattern. And there's a lot of scientific research and stuff on that, what that looks like, genetics and epigenetics. So you have like a genetic inheritance of thinking patterns, beliefs, and stuff that it's kind of like the beginning set. Well, God comes into the picture, says you're a new creation, and now he's giving you an ability in Christ to live out of a new identity, right? But just because you have the genetic pattern doesn't mean it's going to manifest in your life. It needs like triggers or certain traumas or an experience or something that happens to really bring it out. And that's the code of the epigenetics, which takes your genetics and maps out how is this thing going to really manifest, right? So as I investigated my family tree, there's anxiety all over, and I had both sides of the coin. I had my father's side was more open, more out there, right? And then my mom's side where it's like all super...
Two complete opposites.
Super suppressed, not talked about, not ever brought up, right? That's inside of me. And I joke about that a lot. You know, my Norwegian Scandinavian side and my Puerto Rican side, really interesting pattern. So now I'm a new creation in Christ Jesus, and I'm on a journey of discovering what that means and what that looks like. And now I get the opportunity to set a new pattern for generations to come. My battlegrounds that I get victory over become a gift to my children. And there's certain things I will break that they won't deal with, but there's other things that didn't, or they got to work out anyway and so forth. But this is the beauty. We have to see the big picture when it comes to our anxiety. We're just like, I just want to get rid. This is the common error. I want to get rid of these feelings of anxiety so I can just go back to my life.
Right.
And that ain't going to happen.
No, it doesn't. And it's usually a call to go deeper, to grow, to recognize things that need to be dealt with. It's always a call for every time there's some kind of pain, issue, something, it's a call for greater and deeper in your life. Always. And you can take that or you may not.
Yeah.
You may not.
And I think we need to be really aware of the fact that we are at war. There is an absolute war. And if we were to look at the enemy's attacks on the front line, Satan is the accuser of the brethren, right? So he's accusing us day and night. So we're being accused and condemned all day in our thoughts. We don't even realize that we're being given thoughts by the enemy. But along with that, he's not just an accuser, he's a bully. And bullies throw a lot of smoke and mirrors and taunt. That's why I talk about in my book, I Will Not Fear, that fear is a terrorist, right? And what does a terrorist do? It's not so much what they're going to do. It's the anticipation of what could happen that gives them power. Right? The threats, the whatever. And so what do you do with the bully? You stand up to it. Right? So I want to remind our listeners and watchers that there's a war going on over your life. And so when you feel that fear or feel that anxiety or feel that worry, you need to recognize there's something powerful on the other side of that. There's power, there's love, there's a sound mind that God's given to you. There's an invitation for it. But don't just go, I just want the symptoms to go away, to go back to my old life. No, you're going to use this as a way to grow, and it's a whole new way of life, because safety in God and love and breaking these anxiety patterns is not so you can just go back and just sit on the couch. It's actually going to raise up a more bold, confident, courageous you. And there'll be a lot of seasons where the darkness and the new you there's like a wrestling going on inside of you. And you step out and you do things afraid, and you do it anxious. You do it with the anxiety there anyways, but you choose to face the bully and you expose him for who he really is. There's never been something that I look back that I had anxiety over that I go, yeah, I had the right to be anxious over that. It's like, no, I was able to face most of the things never happened, and the things that did, I can face it. Because anxiety is always telling us you're going to die. You're going to die. This is going to happen. You're going to die. It always goes there. It ends there, right? And like, no.
I'm going to be sick.
Fear poverty or fear loss or fear lack. And like, no, you'll figure it out. You'll grow. And I found all of my victories are on the other side of the anxiety battles that I had. And so as I started to break free, it gave me the courage to go, all right, let's get married. Let's start a new journey. Let's not make decisions based on fear anymore. And that created a new template. So now a more confident Mark started to arise.
Yeah.
Because every time the anxiety would come, it would pin me down. And it happened so much, I thought, well, this is probably God telling me something. That was probably the darkest, most confusing time.
We could do a whole episode just on that sentiment and mindset. I really think we could. Like, really. Because I think a lot of people do that. Well, if I'm feeling yucky, I blame Oprah. Because Oprah's like, what's the inner... What does she say? What's that thing she says?
I blame Oprah.
What is that thing? What is that? You know what I'm saying?
Your gut.
No, but she calls it something. She doesn't say your gut. Those of you listening are probably going, it's this. I forget. She has this saying of like, it's telling you.
You're nowhere?
No, I'm going to have to look it up now and Google it. But of like, you should trust it. When it's whatever is screaming the loudest, that must be God. And
I followed that. I'll be honest.
I did too.
I'll be honest. I followed that. Born again believer, love Jesus, love God with all my heart.
I didn't know what his voice was. I didn't.
I'd follow whatever voice is the loudest.
Right. So true.
And I had to confront that. I made a lot of decisions based on that too. And here's the thing. I had a couple like good ones where it worked in my favor, it seemed like. So it
was like, you're right.
It reinforced it. Keep following that. Then in relationships and people, they're kind of like, I'm not sure. And I had people lovingly enough to go, I don't know, maybe look at that a little bit. And they're like, how can you tell me I'm not hearing from God?
Right.
Like, come on, relax, everyone. We're all learning and growing. So then I realized, all right, what would I do if fear was not in the equation? That really changed because I learned God operates, everything he does is by faith. So if I want to see him show up, I need to engage the power of faith to step into those territories that I keep avoiding. Because we live in a way where we avoid our fear issues and then we wonder why we're not seeing the dynamic fruit.
Right. The things that we're even praying about. Why isn't this happening?
Because the fruit is in the discomfort. So my remedy and encouragement for you is not to just run, be kind to yourself because love is an important part of this, but love doesn't mean you're just going to be cozy, cushy in a Nerf life. Like you're going, the picture of freedom is not, oh, God's love is just going to be like this cozy place you just bask in and never get challenged. It's more that there's a realization of God has your back. That's the picture that works for me. It's kind of a guy saying, I got your back. So with that in mind, he's giving me the confidence to step up and face the thing I need to face, to do the thing I'm called to do, knowing that he's with me. It's like a picture of David saying, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, right? That's a real strong picture there he's giving. I will fear no evil. Why? Because you're with me. I got a revelation that you're with me in this. We're in relationship. And that love is settling me. It's guiding me. It doesn't mean I sit passive. I got to step up to this. I got to have the conversation with the person I'm avoiding. I got to stop letting
that decision. I got to talk to my boss. I need to, right.
I got to stop letting the worry of my finances. Doggone it. It's like we serve that monster of finances. And it just imprisons us. Or what's going to happen tomorrow, or the news. Or a lot of times people have what's called a generalized anxiety disorder, meaning the blanket you talked about. Right. I had that too, where it just covers everything. And that's speaking to your overall sense of how do you feel safe with God, with yourself, and others.
Yeah.
If you lean into it, God's going to go, all right, we're going to deal with some thinking patterns. We're going to break some agreements. We're going to develop new perspectives. I'm going to stretch you, but I'm going to love you all the way through it. And that's what he did in my life. And he can do that for you. So anxiety was not my permanent sentence, nor is it a master in my life anymore. And it doesn't have to be for you. So I would encourage you, if any of this that I'm talking about is connecting at all to your life and your journey, get a copy of I Will Not Fear. I've had just great feedback of what people have gotten out of this book. I took my first edition, and I re-looked at it. I shifted some things and put it into a 28-day process. Doesn't mean 28 days in a row. Don't consume it that fast. But in that kind of format where it's like shorter chapters, you can have questions and prayers to walk you through this. I want to invite you into a process to allow God to just do a beautiful renovation for how you do life, how you do relationships, because this can be a really powerful place in your life and journey where he can work in your life. So I want that to be an encouragement for you, an encouragement for what God is doing in your life. Do you have any other thoughts?
My only thing that I would say is to encourage people to set their day with some sort of thanksgiving, a declaration. Do one thing tomorrow that starts changing the way that you take on the day. Because if you're listening to this podcast and you're going, wow, that's really resonating with me. I hear something in what you're saying, Melissa. You know what? Wow, I resonate with what you're saying, Mark. All right, what do I need to do? I think find one thing. Start tomorrow with where you can just take 10 seconds, 30, however much you can do in that moment. Be kind to yourself. Take some time. Say even a declaration of like, I'm going to be good today. I'm safe today. God loves me. I can do this. Just things that are really encouraging that can just start tweaking your thinking and helping you to really move forward into some good, powerful healing.
That's good. I'd add to that a mindset of just slowing down. Bring the RPMs down a little bit because the anxiety wants you to ramp up. Bring it down a little bit. Take in some deep breaths. Pause, invite God into this place. He's very well equipped and all powerful to meet you in this. Discover who he is. It's very uncomfortable. It's sometimes feels debilitating, but allow yourself, don't put the pressure to just get it off and get over it overnight. Buckle up and allow God to take you on a journey. When you do that, you're going to find some amazing things in the longer term.
Right.
And it led me on a whole different pathway, and I love it. And I would never, ever write it any other way. So I thank God that he's helped me to rewrite my story. So anyways, if this episode's been a blessing to your life, go to markdejesus.com, subscribe to our email list, got some great new resources that are going to be coming out, new courses and stuff. We're excited about that. Consider a one-time donation. Consider becoming a monthly partner. And in doing that, you'll get access to great tools, materials, and courses that I have specifically designed for overcoming and living in the healing and freedom that's available. And share these episodes with your friends. And we look forward to more great material in the weeks ahead. Send us your questions. You can write mark@markdejesus.com. I look forward to hearing from you, and we'll see you next time. God bless you guys.